friends. Today I would like to talk to you about the inconsistencies in Sherlock Series 4 and especially in the last episode. I don't really know, we'll talk about it later on. Now this isn't the first video that I'm making about this episode. I did another one, but I ended up mostly talking about John Locke and my confusion around all that. So if you want to watch that, it is here, I believe. Now first of all, I would like to thank you for the response that I got on this other video, because in most cases people were very civil and a lot of people who didn't agree with me actually had very interesting ideas and we debated, and that's really nice. That's how things should be. We shouldn't have to argue in comments. That's just ridiculous. Now a quick disclaimer before I start. First of all, there's gonna be spoilers, so maybe don't watch this if you haven't seen the episode. Second of all, I am not trying to ruin your own enjoyment of the show. I thought this series was full of inconsistencies and plot holes, and it just didn't make sense to me. But if you did enjoy the series and the episode, I am happy for you. I really am. That's great. So maybe don't watch this to bring your mood down. It's just useless. And especially don't watch this if you just want to fight me on things. I'd be glad to hear you debate though. If you think I read something wrong, I'd be really interested to know what you think about all that. So let's get into it. I took notes, a lot of notes, but they're a real mess. So don't expect some kind of proper hierarchy. I'm just going to throw everything out there. Every characterization is out of place and it is just a huge mess. To take the most obvious one, Mycroft has been introduced as almost a sociopath for the past series. During the Flight of the Dead plotline, he just didn't really care. I think he said something like everyone dies or something like that. And they joke about the wars that he starts. They joke about the number of weapons he's bought. Okay, so that's how Mycroft is introduced. Whether you read it as his true identity or just a facade, that's still how he's presented. And then you get to the final problem, where Mycroft is almost vomiting because someone just shot themselves. Like, I'd have this reaction too, but that's Mycroft we're talking about. It just doesn't make sense. John beating up Sherlock in the second episode could be put onto anger and grief and all that, but that was still a little bit out of place to my mind, but that's not the biggest inconsistency we've got. On the other hand, in the third episode, where Sherlock puts a gun to his throat, I believe, John doesn't move, he doesn't flinch, he just stays there, and it feels so wrong. That's not how his character has been made at all. That's not John Watson. Now, this one is quite personal, but I felt like Mary's redemption act was a bit off. It didn't feel completely right, but we have to remember that Moffat and Gatiss are quite bad at writing female characters, so that might just be because of that. There's one thing that was mostly bad storytelling. Euros can reprogram people, but like they never actually show it. I thought the actress was brilliant. I didn't recognize her in all her roles. That was a good revelation. But Euros being able to reprogram people, they just say it, they never show it. And if you know anything about storytelling, it is the basic rule. Show, don't tell. And in the third episode, literally all they do is, look, she can reprogram people. We don't even hear her actually trying to convince someone to do anything. We just hear someone else facing her and saying that it's not moral. That's just bad general storytelling, and I don't understand where it went wrong, because Moffat and Gatiss are not bad storytellers. They have their weaknesses, like female characters, but they are supposed to be good storytellers. Still on Euros, this woman has mental issues. Okay. However, she killed Sherlock's childhood best friend. She tried to kill his brother, his other best friend. She tortured Sherlock as a kid. And Sherlock just hugs her and plays violin with her. And none of that makes sense. If you want to tell a story about a villain that actually just needs some help. That's possible, that's a good idea, that's great, but that's not how you do it. You don't make their action completely unforgivable and then just like that make them forgiven. That can't work. Mary's death in episode 1 was exactly as they said it didn't happen. In series 3, when Mary shot Sherlock, you have Molly in Sherlock's Mind Palace saying something like, it's not how it happens, it's not like in the movies, you don't go flying backward and there's no big spurt of blood, and that's exactly how Mary died. That is a huge inconsistency, especially for a series that has 3 episodes every 2 years. You can't make errors like that. So apparently Mary's sending CDs from her grave. So like, either she's actually alive and that's just a whole plot line that's unresolved and she's sending discs, or she's dead, but in that case, how are the discs arriving at the right moment? And that doesn't make any sense. Okay, this one has been talked about a lot, but the scene in the well, you know, when John is actually chained at the bottom of the well and they just throw a rope and he's freed. Now, it might just be that the scene has been cut, that someone is coming down to cut the chains, but you can't do that. You've got an entire team. They must have seen that. They must have seen that there was something missing. Near the beginning of the 3rd episode, you've got Mycroft, John and Sherlock in a flat that explodes, and it throws them, like Mycroft, around the building, I'm guessing near the stairs, and John and Sherlock through the windows 1 floor down. And then, like just a few days later, from what I've understood anyway, they go undercover at Sherringford. They don't have a single scratch. They don't have a cut on their face from the windows. They don't have any part of their body that hurts. They just went flying through a window and down an entire floor and everything's fine. We still don't have any explanation for the skull picture. If you don't know, if you haven't been paying a lot of attention, there is a picture of a skull in 221B, and it has always been there. The thing is, in this series, it just kept changing. I think even the frame itself kept changing. The major point was that there was a light behind the skull. Like, in some scenes, the skull would become brighter and brighter, and then suddenly it would be all black. Like in the 1st episode, the skull kept becoming brighter, and at some point in the 2nd, I think it was entirely black. Like you could see it was a skull, but it was much darker and no light and nothing. And someone had to take that skull frame and put lights behind and adjust the light at every scene. This is not random. This is not just about a prop forgotten somewhere. It is just too big to not mean anything. Now, this one is more personal, but Mary guiding this series felt a bit wrong, especially in the very last scene of the 3rd episode with her voiceover that some people loved. I found it very cheesy and out of place, especially because, no offense to people who love Mary, but Mary is not supposed to be a main character. I mean, an important one, obviously, but Mary actually says it herself. It has always been about John and Sherlock. Whether you ship them or not, it's not the problem. The original books and the series have always been about John and Sherlock. And now Mary gets killed in the 1st episode, and she comes back as a thing in John's mind in the 2nd episode, which was fine and wrapped the story pretty well. And then 3rd episode, they had to have her come back with another CD to say things that just, it was so cheesy and bad to me. And the very fact that she guided this final scene, it just felt really wrong to me. You might not agree with me on that, but that's just how I felt. Another thing that Moffat said is that it is not a detective show, it is a show about a detective. And then they write an episode where a voiceover says that it doesn't matter who they are, the only thing that matters is the legends. And I'm not saying either of these is wrong, but they're quite contradictory. They just don't work together. Now, in general, this third episode was supposed to be the best episode of this entire TV show. It's Moffat's favorite episode, according to his own words. But, like, where? It doesn't even feel like Sherlock. It feels like a James Bond episode or a Batman thing, like some people noticed. It just felt like Batman going to Arkham and meeting the Joker. It didn't feel like a Sherlock story. Not to mention the whole be part of making history thing. Now, I read that as John Locke becoming canon. You don't have to, but explain to me how this episode was making history. Absolutely no history was made. It was an episode. Moffat and Gatiss, to whom I will refer as Moftis from now on because it's quicker and that's what we usually do in the community of fan. Moftis are very informed about the LGBT plus issues and all the problems with representation, and they just gave us an episode where the two main villains are openly queer, one of which actually mentions it as she's talking about sexually assaulting someone, and that is not representation, that is queer bashing. Gatiss said something that was very intelligent. He said that everyone is all shades of everything, meaning that we should write LGBTQ people as good guys and as bad guys and as insecure guys, and obviously that's obvious, that's brilliant, but why are they not actually using it in their show? Because you have to find a balance. You can't just put every bad guy in the LGBTQ community and then say, look, representation. It doesn't work like that. And I am, but my main point is not to rant about that. It is to point out that Gatiss has said something and then done the opposite. And that's another inconsistency in the show and in the way it's been made. The fascinating thing about Sherlock used to be that the writers had always planned everything years ahead. You can see parts of Series 3 explained from things that appeared in the first episode. It was brilliant. But this Series 4, to me and to a lot of people, just felt like it was random ideas thrown around. The thing is, obviously for a casual viewer who doesn't remember much about the previous series or who even maybe hasn't seen them, nothing will seem wrong. Except there is something wrong. Moftis claim to love a big reveal, to put a lot of foreshadowing, or as they put it, to put a rug under our feet and to keep on repeating, we're gonna pull the rug. And when they do pull the rug, we are supposed to still be surprised. And that's how a good reveal works. And it's worked well until now, because they didn't give us a rug before they pulled it. The only foreshadowing of Eurus that we had was Redbeard appearing a few times in Sherlock's Mind Palace, which was actually a boy. That was a good reveal. We had Harry actually being Harriet, John's sister, so a brother being actually a sister. And we had the whole there's an east wind coming. Now there's another small thing here. It's not a huge inconsistency, but the thing is, Sherlock and Moftis has made us used to everything being really clever, whether you look into it or not, but they think about a lot of details. And for example, Eurus, is a Greek name. Sherlock and Mycroft are both very old English names. That's not huge, but obviously if you are more of a casual watcher, you will just say that I'm full of bullshit and that it doesn't matter. And obviously it's not very important, but BBC Sherlock is known to be quite into details, and they wouldn't let something like that slip. So none of this series ties in together. Now I can see two possibilities. Either we overestimated the writers, and that would be extremely disappointing and kind of fucked up. Or, and it's the solution I'm hoping for, there is more content coming. Now you might have heard that there are theories and rumors that a fourth episode could actually happen in the next few days. If you want me to get more into this theory, just tell me and I'll gather information and make another video about that. But it's a theory that exists and I'm hoping for it, and as time passes I'm believing it more and more, so I really hope I'm right about that. I would also like to point out something that Moffat once said, which was that they wanted to give the viewers what they wanted, but not how they expected it. And if they haven't thrown all their values out, I'm hoping that this could also point out to more content, because this is not what anyone wanted. None of this is things that people wanted. It was a shit show. Yeah, I really hope that there is more content coming, like a 4th episode. I'm not talking about Series 5, I just mean right now. Because I don't want to believe that the writer's love for continuity has just gone down the gutter. I mean, for example, apparently at some point in the earlier series, they put the wrong tie on Mycroft, and then they actually apologized for putting the wrong tie on Mycroft because it didn't fit in the same scene. I believe too much in Moffat and Gatiss to think that they could do a story with that many plot holes and no other explanation. Now there's also a thing that I would like to point you to. It is the EMP theory, which is the extended Mind Palace theory, which would basically put this series, or at least part of it, in Sherlock's Mind Palace, which would explain all these inconsistencies. It's a thing that happened in The Abominable Bride, the Christmas special. There was a lot of inconsistencies, but they worked because it was Sherlock imagining all that, so obviously the characterization would be a bit all over the place. But it's not forgivable in this series if it's real. So it's a good theory, I like it. I don't know if I believe it, but it's really interesting. So if you want to know more about it, just go on Tumblr and type EMP and you'll find loads of interesting things. I'm also going to leave in the description below the link to my Sherlock tag on my Tumblr, so it's a mess, don't expect any kind of order, but it's all kinds of things that I reblogged or posted about the show. So what do you think about all that? Please tell me if you think I'm wrong on certain points, tell me if you have any more plot holes or things that you don't get. Once again, I'm not trying to ruin how good you might have thought that the episode was, but I just feel like something's off, and I'm not making a video just to rant about this. I'm making a video because I'm confused about everything that's happened, and I want to hope that there's going to be a resolution to all that. And by resolution I mean another episode or something to explain all of that, because I just don't want to believe that the writers have just kind of given up. I want to believe that Moffat and Gatiss are better writers than that, because this is so full of plot holes and inconsistencies, and it doesn't make sense for them to write something like that. I just don't get it, and I want answers. So tell me what you think. I can't wait to see what happens in the future for Sherlock. I really hope there's new content, because this has just been remarkably bad. I mean, the episode and the series have some good moments, but they shouldn't be wrapped up in so much bullshit. Basically, this is my review, my official review. Good, but too much bullshit. Okay, bye!